Well, before I let you go, John, do you have any wins of the week that you'd like to shout out to a few of the folks on this busy Memorial Day weekend?
Yeah, sure. So I'll do the white flag for hot sauce. No, for Brody Carlsrud.
There you go.
I was gonna say cut that out, please.
I
So
can
we'll
do
redo that
that.
here for a second. So yep. So the white flag segment in memory of Brody Carlsrud. Let's
In
cut that out
memory.
too. Let's
In
cut that out too.
memory.
That didn't sound right. Oh my god.
Poor
That'd be
Brody, he
that'd be two
died.
caution flags on me already here in the last thing.
Speeding up, no slowing down.
Welcome back, everyone, to the Track Packers podcast for episode 11 of season 4, coming off a very busy Memorial Day weekend for some, others not so much, but there's still quite a bit of racing taking place, and we're here to recap all that we saw with myself, Mason, and right now, John Breckle. Jessup will also be on the show, as well as we have a little different format just because with Memorial Day weekend, kind of throws everything off a day, and of course, John's in parts unknown, so that makes things challenging. So, John, how have you been doing?
I'm in hiding. They each week they have to put me in hiding, just because of my behaviors during the weekends. But
This makes
besides
sense.
that, no, I'm traveling again for work this week, so that's why you see a different, graphic in the back of me for like background. But no, actually in Washington D.C. for work this week, so I'm actually out here for trainings, and then I will fly back in time for racing action this weekend. But no, I have been like you, Mason. I have been a very busy body this past weekend. I got back from Kansas City, survived the weather, thank goodness for that, and got back to Kansas City, from Kansas City to Bismarck right around probably 8 o'clock at night on Thursday, and then Friday was already canceled for us for racing, where I would have typically gone from the Mandan side. So I actually took that day to pack up and get ready for this trip.
Well, there you go. At least you were productive on that Friday. I mean, probably the closest track you would have been able to go to would have been probably Red River Valley.
I think Fargo was the closest track to us. Yeah, because everything else had been canceled between obviously Brown County canceled, Mandan canceled, and everything to the west was either, multiple hours or was just not running that weekend. So yeah, so it would have been probably that's probably going to be the closest track to me. Would have probably been Fargo.
Yeah, and we'll kind of get to it when we talk about our track pack report, but there were a lot of people out west that ventured over
There were.
east this weekend. So, because, yeah, it's been slim pickings racing out west. And I managed to get 5 nights of racing in actually before the weekend. I kind of had an idea of where I was going to go. I didn't release my total schedule just because I'm of the mindset if it's iffy, I'm not going to post if I'm going to go there because I don't want to get blamed if they cancel.
You're
But
welcome.
yeah, I can thank all you guys for that. But 5 straight nights, coming off a weekend where I just had one, I was a little wore out by the time Sunday and Monday rolled around.
Let's say, Mason, let's use your words that you used in our chat on Sunday. You were a chicken with its head cut off for a while yesterday.
Yeah, yeah, there's not enough time, and I was telling a few people in the pits, I'm like, this is when I wish there was three of me running around because it would have helped so much. But we survived. We survived the weekend. Now I have a kind of a clearer mindset going into the hopefully a consistent 3 to 4 nights a weekend from here on out, and as long as Mother Nature cooperates as well.
That is true.
Yeah, so this whole episode's gonna look and sound a little bit different just because we're kind of mixing and matching at different pieces of the show. That way we can get John to a decent bedtime, him being on the East Coast and in a very, I don't know, weird location with DC. Are you staying like actually in DC or are you just outside of the area?
We're in Fairfax.
Okay.
So we're like right outside of DC. And we're at a hotel complex. We're at one of the Marriott Resorts hotels to where the training will happen here. Like all the breakfast stuff we brought in, the lunch stuff we brought in, the training will happen here at this location.
Okay. Yeah, because I suppose you probably don't get a ton of time to like go tourist sightseeing or anything like that.
No, not this trip. This will be a really quick trip. So I flew in this evening, got here right around 6 o'clock, and then Eastern time, and then I fly back to Bismarck at about midnight on Thursday is when I land. So, and our training goes all day tomorrow, which will be Wednesday. We're taping this on a Tuesday, and then all pretty much until about 3 o'clock on Thursday. So
Oh,
it's like
wow.
a full training session. And tomorrow we don't get done until like dinner wise until at least 8 or 9 o'clock Eastern time. So there's really not a whole lot of sightseeing that's going to happen for sure on this trip. I've been to DC before, so I've seen some sites and some locations, but I'll probably for sure be back here probably in September sometime, and then probably do a little bit of sightseeing back then to see stuff that I have not seen yet.
Yeah, that is a pretty quick trip, but I'm sure they're packing a lot in that day and a half.
They're going to pack a lot in. So yeah, it's going to be a busy session.
Well, yeah, hope the training goes well, and hope the weather stays pretty decent for you guys. I know last trip was a little bit hectic, but I think it's going to be a little bit better this week from what I've seen.
Yeah, this week down here is just rain. It's just supposed to rain. We're supposed to get like an inch to an inch and a half of rain tomorrow. That'll be fine. I'm going to be at the hotel all day anyhow, so it'll just rain.
See, maybe you're the Rain Man. I mean, you are Rain Man in one aspect, but
I am, however, based on statistics and facts, history has shown that it is not me. It is somebody else.
I don't know. The tides might be turning. Slight pun intended.
Well, but the tides, if they turn, it's going to take at least like 4 years for the tides to fully turn with how many, racetracks and other events, not just Monsoon Mason, but Hurricane Kayla have put a damper on.
It, for the most part, it's been a pretty clean year, and let's keep it that way.
It has been. Actually, it really has been. I mean, obviously we had the one weekend that was a full on washout, right? In May, which I don't think anybody complained about because we needed the moisture. And then we had a lot of rain this past week at the beginning of the week, but it got really nice as the week kept progressing towards the Thursday, the Friday, the Saturday, the Sunday, and the Monday shows. There was a lot of really nice weather. Unfortunately, some tracks still had to cancel because the amount of moisture they had at the beginning of the week was just too much to overcome, which is completely understandable. But luckily, a lot of the tracks that did race, they actually had pretty decent track surfaces for a majority of those, and some very good battles and some very good races.
Yeah, I feel like kind of an overarching feeling on this weekend. Like every track I went to had some character of some sort, so I think most people understood that, like with the moisture that everywhere had, that the track wasn't going to be the smoothest, but it made things entertaining from a fan's aspect. Maybe not so much from a driver's
Mhm.
aspect with some of wrecked equipment that we had at some of the races, but kind of goes with the weather and the season, unfortunately.
Especially this time of the year. This time of the year, I feel like is always one of those weekends that Memorial Day weekend is always usually a wetter, damper weekend, right? It just feel like that's always the case. You get to Labor Day weekend, which is over there, September time frame, and I feel like that weekend is always usually the hotter,
Mhm.
drier weekend out of the whole entire year. So yeah, so you kind of have the two evils kind of going back and forth.
Yeah, and so a lot of racing that took place this weekend. A lot of our drivers finally got to get back out to the racetrack that hadn't been racing in the last couple weeks, including our presenting sponsor, Tyler Hall with Hitch Harness. Thank you, Tyler, for supporting us on the podcast. Was looking pretty dang good to start the night over at Red River Valley Speedway, but unfortunately was one of the cars that kind of suffered some damage during the feature event. But still nice to see him at the racetrack, and it's got I personally like his paint scheme. It's a little bit different than he had last year with the orange and the black, but I think it looks really good, and he's got that car really nicely set up. But just victim of circumstances, unfortunately, this last Friday night. But you would to talk to us a little bit about Hitch Harness and what they all do, John?
Yeah, so if you need anything truck accessory related, anything with your hitch, that is one of their specialty items. So they actually have covers for the hitches in the back of the truck beds that help protect the hitch from rolling around and getting basically damaged or honestly damaging somebody else with it flying out of the truck bed and onto a road or onto an incoming vehicle, or even just hitting somebody like Jessup. So with it being protected with a hitch harness, you will be not only safer on the road, but also a reliable driver. So with that being said, you can check them out for any type of hitch harness or any type of accessories related to anything in the truck bed, as well as maybe the truck itself, or even vehicles themselves. You can check that out, especially for racetrack stuff, right? So a lot of racers out there look for different accessories to use on their race car. Check out Tyler's website at hitchharness.com. He's got a lot of stuff out there that could help you out and be beneficial in various ways.
Absolutely. Thank you, John. And thank you once again, Tyler, for supporting us. And hope you have some better luck moving forward for the rest of the 2025 season. Now, we usually have a lineup here, but it's just going to be helter-skelter. So we just have the two of us, John and I, right now. We'll wave the green flag to officially kick off episode 11. We may wave it one more time once Jessup rolls in after his softball shenanigans and get into who or what are we repping. John, who or what are you repping for this episode?
So I have, I think, repped this shirt before, but with me packing this week, I packed on Friday. Kind of didn't even really think about shirts, but I was like, I know I have not worn this one for a while. This is a Wissota 100 shirt, one of the first ones that was down there at the I-94 Speedway back when we had the event in 2019 in I-94, and this shirt's got the winners on the back. So it's very much one of those shirts that I use sometimes to be the history lessons when Jessup is trying to do, be sneaky during his memory throwbacks. Yeah. So it'd be one of those shirts that I would have in front of me saying, oh, this driver won on this date, because it's got both the Wissota 100 on there and the Western 100 back in the Cedar Lake and also in the Aberdeen days, as well as when it was in Rapid City for a while and then moved to Brainerd before it went to Huron and now I-94. So yes.
Wow.
So yeah, look at that history lesson. Jessup could have not even done that.
Well, I would say, you just flexed a whole bunch of knowledge, and I'm trying to follow. I'm like, oh, geez, I would not have remembered all that.
There is another location in there too. It was back in Minnesota when it first started. I don't remember exactly where it was at. I have to actually take the shirt off and look at it. But yeah, so the 100's been moved around quite a bit over the years, but it has had its stable locations to where, it was in Cedar Lake for many, many, many years when Cedar Lake was full on Wissota back in the day. And then it moved into kind of the Huron area when they put everybody back together into one show. And the year before that was the year that they had 3 100s. They had an East 100, they had a Central 100, and they had a Western 100. And the Western one that year was in Gillette. So it was at the Gillette Thunder Speedway. And then the regular 100 from the Central, that was in Huron. And then the Eastern one was in Brainerd. And I believe, if I'm not mistaken, I think the Brainerd one, that might have been the year the Brainerd one was a complete wash. Like they rained out. I think they ran the first night, but I don't even know if they got the full first night in, and then it rained. And then when you look at it even farther from some of the locations and some of the events, that was the last year that they determined, let's just have one. It needs to be put back to just one location, one place. It's easier to track on everybody from a time perspective and also from a national points perspective. So it's got its new home now in I-94. At that time, it was Huron, and then it moved to I-94, and it's been in I-94 ever since. So, and Mason, you and I, we've been attending that for the last several years.
Sure have. I love I-94. It's actually probably my favorite racetrack to go to. Surprisingly, haven't been there yet this year in 2025. So, gonna be nice to visit there hopefully in a couple weeks for a doubleheader, and looking forward to the 100 again this year. I think there's gonna be a lot of great competition again, and they've been trying to continually improve that race and kind of making it more beneficial and fun for the drivers and fans all involved. And so just trying to continue to build and build each year, and hopefully it's going to be one of the best ones we've had in a long time. So cool shirt, John. I've also repped the shirt I'm wearing, but I have a new hat. So you can see it's a B1. Brody,
one of our sponsors.
Yes, he was giving some of these hats out after Friday night, which was a very, very fun Friday night. I'll explain why in just a little bit, but repping Brody Carlsrud with the hat this weekend. The shirt, I've worn this a couple seasons ago, but this is a Nelson Motorsports, specifically Jeff Nelson, number 33, who's now jumped behind the wheel of a Gen X late model, I believe. So it's a couple of years old, so it's one of his old schemes from his Midwest Modified days. He also dabbled in Minnesota Modified. But another cool moment from this week, picked up his first win in the Gen X late models
Hmm.
down at Sheyenne Speedway. And so wanted to rep him, and he was very excited in victory lane. I think it's been, oh gosh, at least 4 or 5 years since he last won a feature race. And so long
Wow,
time
it's been a
coming.
while then.
Yeah, long time coming. Put it in a lot of work. I've been actually to his shop when he's been working on the Gen X late model, and so it was definitely cool to see him get into victory lane with Nick Szymanski, one of his main pit guys, helping him out. So figured I'd rep his shirt and give him a little shout out there on that win on Monday night. And so that is for what John and I are repping for this episode. We'll see what Jessup's repping when we get him on the show as well. Now, just got a message that we have to do the hot sauce hot memory rewind without Jessup tonight.
Ooh.
So,
So Mason, it's going to be all you because it might be a little hard for me to share when I'm on my phone.
yes. So I think I have some good backups, and I'm gonna kind of play around a little bit with this, but we'll give a shout out to Isaac Hot Sauce Sondrol in the 12S machine out of Turtle Lake, North Dakota, who did get a couple races in under his belt up at the Nodak Speedway for their doubleheader. I know John was up there Sunday night, so he got to see kind of how Isaac was doing. Got a 13th place finish on Sunday and 9th on Monday, and there's some pretty stout competition up there both days. So definitely some iron being shown up at the Nodak Speedway. And if you want to follow Isaac's Racing, 12S Racing on Facebook is where you can follow him. And if you ever see him in the pits at Nodak, or he may be announcing a little bit again at McLean County, be sure to stop by, say hi. One of the nicest guys to talk to in the pits. And we want to thank Isaac for supporting us on the podcast. So, like John, I kind of have like a little site that I kind of keep tabs on too. It's mainly on Facebook, but I like to go to the Nodak Speedway Hall of Fame page because they have a lot of photos from back in the day when I was growing up. And so, let's see if I can find a couple of photos that maybe we can semi-stump John or see if he can guess who these folks are.
Kind of interesting last week because Jessup had all these great ones that he's like, oh, nobody's going to know. And I think we were 100% last week, if I'm not
Yeah,
mistaken, on the
you
guesses.
didn't even have to cheat.
No, I didn't have the ability even to go through and cheat. But also, I do actually have on my computer, I have backup ones saved down on my actual laptop when I'm home when we podcast to be
Okay.
able to show those too if we ever would need backups. I've got them. I've got multiple ones saved.
Oh, okay. I think I just found a really good one to kick things off here. Let me see if I can find one more. John, are you ready? I have two.
I'm ready.
I have two. These both of these are going to be a little tricky, so are you up for the challenge?
I think so. I mean, if I don't get them right, we already know Jessup is definitely not getting these right. So
Jessup would not get either of these.
no.
Okay. Can you name both the drivers in this photo?
So the zero machine. Oh gosh, I just saw the zero. Okay. So the other one, is that a 199 or is that a
Yes.
199? Oh god, I know these drivers too. Is the zero Rutland? Or
It is
no,
not.
no, the zero is Robbie Roselli.
I don't think it is actually.
Okay. So the 199, would that be, gosh, who used to run the 199?
He's from Berthold.
Okay, I'm not going to get that right then because that's not who I was thinking of.
Joel Rodemaker.
Yeah, I wasn't going to get that one. I'm not, I know, I don't really recognize that name.
Now, the zero, I have to double check this, but I'm pretty sure. So this driver most recently drove a modified and his son now races.
Oh.
You actually saw his son race this past Sunday up in Nodak, but in the sport compacts.
Oh gosh, who would that be? In the sport compacts.
This driver is a multi-time winner of the Rough Rider Classic in the modifieds as well.
Is that Jeff? Is that Jeff Hooker?
Nope. Believe this is Alan Kent.
Really?
Yep, there's a little stint that Alan Kent drove the number zero
Oh, Mason,
before.
that would make sense because Alan Kent drove a zero, was soda modified down in Huron the first year that Huron had the full on 100. It was a
Oh,
red zero,
okay.
and it was a zero car, and it had the same number style that that one has, except it was in yellow.
Okay.
That would make more sense.
Yes, I'm gonna double check on this again, but I'm pretty sure Alan Kent was driving that zero machine. I think that was 2005, that photo. This one's also gonna be a tricky one.
The 17. That's a hobby stock, right?
That is a hobby stock, and this is a driver from Canada.
Is that Jim Harris?
It's not Jim Harris, but you have the right last name.
Oh, is it Bobby Harris?
Nope, it's a lady driver.
Oh, well, I guess I don't even know then.
This is Alyssa Harris.
Alyssa, I never saw Alyssa race.
Raced for a few years in the late 2000s and early 2010s in the 17 machine out of Estevan.
Okay. Now is that relation to Jim?
I believe that is one of Jim's daughters. Or
Okay.
I don't know if he has multiple daughters, but
Okay.
yes.
Well, good job, Mason, on the memory rewind because you stumped me on all of them.
Thank you. Thank you. It's usually my go-to because I'm like, John is not as versed in minor drivers as I thought he was. And
I'm not as versed in Minot drivers until right around that 2010 era.
yeah, and I'm not very good at Dakota Speedway, especially when you get into super stocks. It's like, yeah, because I never watched super stocks growing up, and so that makes things a little bit more of a challenge.
Yeah, and we grew up with super stocks back in the day, before basically the mid 2000s hit.
Yep, so that's the hot sauce hot memory rewind for this week. A little late addition or late swap out with me taking the reins on that. Let's talk a little bit of racing from this past weekend, John. I was at 5 races this weekend. How many did you get to this weekend?
I was at two.
It's pretty.
I got to Saturday and Sunday.
That's still a pretty good amount, especially compared to like the last couple weeks where it's just like one, maybe if we're lucky.
Maybe one, right? So yeah, and it's kind of nice though too because if you think about it, even with me traveling in between the weekends, I was kind of nice to get to two tracks. So because I had planned three for the weekend, I got to two, so I was pretty happy with that.
Yeah, yeah, and like I said, my original plan of the 5 I was gonna get to or the 5 race nights. They all
Hmm.
played out, they all panned out, so I was really happy about that. Got to deliver a bunch of stickers to people, say
Hmm.
hi to a lot of folks I haven't seen in quite a while, and so yeah, things got kicked off on Thursday at the River City Speedway. Kind of a rare off day for them because they normally race on Friday nights, but they like to do this. They want to do this Thursday night so that way people could kind of do their other plans, give their workers a little bit of a break, and they could go spend Memorial Day weekend however they want. So they were a little iffy on if they were going to get the show in with the rain they got earlier in the week, but the pits when I got there were pretty dry, and the track was in pretty good condition, and obviously a little bit of character, but nothing out of the ordinary that made it really like Baja-y, but
Hmm.
pretty good field in all the classes. We had street stocks, Midwest mods, late models, 410s, NOSA sprint cars, and with Soda modifieds for the first of their several shows throughout the season. So we kicked things off in the street stocks, which was a really good race. The top three there, Greg Josie was trying to track down John Halverson and got foiled by a caution, and then also got foiled by Seth Clostrike because Seth was closing in the last couple of laps, and they almost went 3 wide on the last lap as they were trying to split John. But John was very persistent on that bottom line in that middle groove and held on for the feature win. So big congrats out to John for getting the win in the 35 machine. In your Midwest Modifieds, a guy that's very tough to beat. And actually, first time out this year in that car, Matt Scow.
Hmm.
Very tough to beat, especially from the front row. Had to hold off challenges from Aaron Blacklands and Austin Hunter. He was running the extreme high side and sometimes almost pushed that cushion a little
Hmm.
too far, but he held on for the win. Austin got second and Aaron Blacklands got third in that race in the 410 sprint cars, which were third out on the track. Really good battle early between Gage Pokerbreck and Mark Dobmeyer, but then Jade Hastings made a great move to get around both of them midway through the race, and he just set sail. Like I think he was in front by almost a half lap by the end because they had a long
Wow.
green flag run to the finish, and they did a really good job. The sprint cars, they were moving all over the racetrack, and so Jade Hastings got the win. Mark Dobmeyer got second, and Pokerbreck ended up third. Good run for Jack Croker, who had some trouble in his heat race, 19th to 4th. So very solid run for the 8 ball. In your Whistle late miles, boy, this was a fun race to watch, especially when you get TPO and Dustin Strand going at it. They both started near the front and they were kind of duking it out from the get-go. And Tyler Peterson got the advantage early, but from what he was saying, something broke in his car, which made the car a handful to drive. And
Oh,
so
okay.
that was allowing Strand to kind of close in like as they were approaching lap traffic, but Strand had gotten by him and then caution came out. So then
Yep.
he had to try to do it all over again, but unfortunately didn't quite get around the TPO machine. So Ty Pearson got the win, Dustin Strand second, and John Seng, the 21S, got third. So great one for John Seng. And the modifieds finished out the program, and wouldn't you know it, TPO doubled up on the night. As he said in Victory Lane, though, he's like, the car didn't handle very well there either, but didn't look like he was phased too much because he pulled away from the rest of the field. Ward Emery was second, Bryce Morgan third, Josh Boyle fourth, and Jordan Duray in fifth. And so that was Thursday night out at the River City Speedway. Before I get into my Friday shenanigans, talk to us about Jamestown because they got to kick off their season this weekend.
So you don't want to go through Friday first and then go to Saturday?
Well, I need a break from talking.
So I think you should do Friday first. We'll stay in order.
Oh, fine.
They had
Let's go to
121 cars in Fargo on Friday night.
Yes. So we had a lot of travelers come in, which I thought was really cool to see. So Red River Valley, with the way they do their My Race Pass, they do pre-race entries like way earlier in the day. So you can kind of get an idea of who's all going to be there early in the afternoon. And so when I was seeing names like Travis Hagen, the Beaters, Brock and Brandon, Kyler Jeffrey, it's like, dang, we're going to have some travelers over here and going to have a really diverse field of cars in all the classes. Because by that time, all the racing that was scheduled Friday and Saturday, specifically in Dickinson, I believe Estevan. McLean was supposed to open this last weekend too, so unfortunately weather claimed those tracks, and so people were looking for a place to race, and so had a lot of travelers from out west, North Dakota, some travelers over from the Bismarck-Mandan
Mhm.
area, and made for a really, really full pit. That was really cool to get some drone shots of the full pits. And kind of like expected. There was a little bit of character in the racetrack. I will say for the heat races, the track looked pretty smooth, but as it cooled down, the moisture just kind of came up, and you could definitely see the character kind of take place, which I'm not going to fault the track crew for that just because, like, especially out here in Fargo, when the dirt gets wet, it stays wet for a long, long time. So they had their hands full, but I'm glad they still got the racing night in because they had a really good turnout and some really fun racing action. Good field of IMCA Race Saver sprints to kick things off. We had 17 of them. A lot of the South Dakota drivers came up for that race. Pretty clean race. Layla Eisenschenk started on the pole, and she kind of set sail on the field. Didn't really have too much of a challenge from Ty Hanton and Dan Greep, who were trying to
Mhm.
track her down even through lap traffic. But she led every single lap to get the feature win. Ty ended up in second, and Dan Greip in the 3D was third. In your IMCA Sport Mods, we had a 27 car field. 26 ended up starting for the race. They were moving pretty quick, and unfortunately, we had some carnage, as John Brecker would say, on the third or fourth lap. One of the cars running third got into the wall in front of the field, and we stacked up about 7 or 8 of them, which ended up with a 48 Chris Van Mill rolling over. He was okay, everyone else was okay as well, but unfortunately, we lost a lot of cars in that mess. So then it turned into a battle between Ryan Ressa in the 7R, who's probably one of the fastest sport mods out in that area, and Austin Verrelrud in the 6 machine. And they had a great battle for a few laps. Austin made the pass about halfway through the race and ended up getting the feature win. And it's been a while since he's been in victory lane. So good win for Austin Verrelrud in the 6, who, by the way, shout out to Austin Verrelrud. He watches the podcast on a regular
He
basis.
does. Yes, he
Yeah.
does.
So, shout out to you, Austin. Thanks for supporting us on the podcast, and congrats on the feature win, holding off Ryan Rested and Thomas Sandvik in the 14, the top 3 as well. So, good run for Thomas. Had a butt ton of legends, over 30 of them. So, of course, we had to run a B main. They started at 20, which is probably a good decision and pretty clean race. Ty Wilkie made his move towards front pretty quickly from his eighth starting position, holding off the likes of Gage Madler and Sean Johnson. So Madler boys coming all the way over from New England, just a few of the drivers that came over. But Ty was pretty much unbeatable on this night. Gage from 12th to 2nd, Sean Johnson 9th to 3rd, and Carter Rest in the 27, 20th to 4th. So there's a lot of passing there on a fast track like that. And so another good race for the NX Legends. Then we move into your stock cars. Now, this was a very interesting race. So your front row consisted of Rick Schultz and Brody Carlsrud. And Brody got the lead right out of the gate, but then Rick Schultz, who was like on a mission in this heat race, like he was fast all night, took the lead a few laps in, spins out on his own from the lead.
Oh,
So then Brody Carlsrud inherits the lead. So Rick goes to the back. We do a few more laps, and Johnny Carter, who's probably one of the fastest stock cars you'll find in the upper Midwest, spins out on his own in 4th.
oh,
So we rack him up again. So during this time, Rick Schultz is slowly getting his way back towards the front, and laps were winding down. Brody Carlsrud's looking for his first stock car win in Fargo. He's got a couple over in Brainerd, but this would have been his first actually overall win at River Valley Speedway because I don't believe he won there in Legend either. So we're just kind of watching the laps kind of click down, and Rick Schultz is getting up to the top 3 and it spins out again just before they take the white. So then Brody has to survive a green-white checker, and it's like you can just see the nerves of people because Brody had a lot of people cheering for him. Held off a late charge from Daniel Aberly to get his first stock car win at River Valley. So congrats to Brody on the big win. Daniel Aberly, another good run in 2nd, and Calvin Kesselberg, and a hard-fought battle with Rob Van Mill for 3rd. So stock cars, no shortage of action there. That translated over to the IMCA modifieds, which we had a very, very solid full field of 24 cars. Unfortunately, had some carnage. We had a couple wrecks and a couple people kind of just pull off just to save a little bit of equipment. But Jesse Sklicki set sail on the field for the first half of the race, and as they were kind of getting the lap traffic, and Dave Shipley in the 72 had won season opening night, was tracking him down super quick, surprised him with 4 to go. Jesse tried to fight back on the high side and unfortunately drove it right off the top of 3 and 4. So that opened the door for Dave Shipley to go 2 for 2 this season in the IMCA Modified. Sklicki was 2nd. John Nord, his first time out this season, from 11th to 3rd. And Chris the Crowbar Tukshire, one of the travelers, 12th to 4th in the 73T. Travis Aiken was also there, 8th to 5th. And so a lot of fast cars in the IMCA Modifieds. And then in your IMCA Hobby Stocks, pretty much the heat race and the feature, no one could touch the 0-1 of Nathan Cole from Fort Ripley, Minnesota. He did have to hold off a late charge from Brody Eckert on a green-white checker, but the 0-1 gets the win. B2 Brody Eckert in 2nd, and Reed Randall from Park Rapids in 3rd. So that concluded a action-packed night. They had fireworks after the races. Very fitting for all the action that the fans got to see on that Friday night. So that was the second night of racing over the Red River Valley Speedway. Now on to Saturday at the Jamestown Speedway. Go ahead, John, so I can get a breather.
Okay, so Jamestown opened their season on Saturday night, and they had a full pits, 135 cars on season opener, and a pretty full grandstands, and a lot of action throughout the whole entire night. So it was a long night. It was a lot of cautions, which is understandable for the season opener, and it definitely drug on. I don't think we started feature action until closer to about that 10 o'clock time frame at night, just because of the fact of how many cautions there were throughout the heats, and then also even within the consies. So first feature up, slingshots. We had 9 slingshot drivers there, and it was a battle up front between Easton Olson and Landon Hallgren. And Easton Olson used lap traffic to his advantage, picked the right line, got the win, his first ever. So over in Jamestown for sure. So that was fun. That was fun to see from the Easton Olson, because that is the younger brother to Ty Olson.
Okay. Yeah.
Yep. So Easton won, Landon was 2nd, and then Caden was 3rd. So Caden Davenport was in the 3rd spot. In your hobby stocks, really nice field of 23 drivers for the hobby stock class, and some new drivers. That was kind of cool to see too. Some new drivers out there, and actually some drivers that don't have their cars ready yet. that we have not seen yet, which are coming out too. So looks like a really nice season for the hobby stocks, especially over in Jamestown. So within the hobby stocks and bombers, call them bombers over in Jamestown, we had Skylar Rorick, who looked really good on Saturday night and led a majority of that feature event, survived several cautions and several challenges from various individuals. And then with about 4 laps to go, he got a little bit too high over in turns 1 and 2 and opened the door for Eric Bush to pass him on the bottom, to where Eric then drove away for the feature win ahead of Skylar Rorick. And then 3rd spot was Carly Horner, 4th spot was Kelly Horner, and Brody Michelson, the youngster who started 18th on the field, finished in the top 5. So really good run for Brody. Brody actually was up in the front a little bit closer too. But Brody got out of line twice during some of the restarts and got called twice for jumping. So got docked spots. So that kind of hindered him a little bit. But Brody was right in the mix to try to pick up a feature win over in Jamestown. It looked really good. I think he's going to have a good season at 18 hobby stock out of Wishick. Mm-hmm. In your Midwest Modifieds, that was a great race. So Jamestown as a whole on Saturday, like Mason said, the track was in pretty good shape except for pretty much the middle. The middles is where it got soft. Jamestown had about 3 inches of rain between Monday through about Wednesday that week. Had sun on Thursday, Friday to help dry it out. But like the heat races you could tell were pretty good, right? Track wasn't too bad. But as the night continued, you could just see the moisture coming up through the middle more and more. And you could definitely tell that the middle was going to be a little bit more of that choppy stuff, which it was. So you could still race into it just fine. It was definitely just more, do you want to drive through that, or are you going to use the high side that was smooth or the bottom that was smooth? So there was definitely 3 distinct lanes, if not more lanes, of racing action within Jamestown on Saturday. Plus, it was the first time that they've had a formal race on the brand new clay.
Oh, that's right.
They added more clay over the offseason again after the Stampede and completely redid the track again with more clay, which you could definitely tell that the new clay has changed the dynamic for Jamestown, right? From when we were there last year at the end of the season to even now, there's definitely a lot more moisture that is held into the track and creates a lot more racing options and racing grooves. Within your Midwest mods, though, it was the front row starters. Mason, you're going to laugh about this. Your pole sitter after the redraw was Jaron Wimstead, 2-time defending champion of the Jamestown Speedway in the Midwest Modifieds, and your outside of the front row was Brennan Waite, 2-time and defending Carp Memorial feature winner. And so your front row was stacked. Yeah. And Brennan Waite picked up the lead right away. Jaron was right in his tire tracks. And a couple drivers that started a little bit deeper in the field started making their presence known, and that was Preston Carr and Reese Stenberg. After the first caution came out, about 7 laps into the event, we had a restart, and Preston Carr used a slider in 1 and 2 to go from 3rd to 1st and get the lead away from Brennan. Brennan got it back on the bottom coming out of turns 3 and 4, and it was Brennan, Preston. Right behind them, it was side by side between Jaron Wimstead and Reese Stenberg. Stenberg was on the bottom of Wimstead for that 3rd and 4th place spot, and then another caution. So cautions were the theme on Saturday night. We could never really get a long green flag stretch except for the legends. It was just cautions. So with that being said, we went back to a restart, and on the restart, Preston Carr unfortunately broke in the rear end of the car. Something broke in the rear end on the restart, and he was a D and did not finish. Tough break for him because Preston looked really good in his Midwest mod to start the season. Got a brand new modified too, so that was kind of cool to see. For the Wissota mods that we saw down at Brown County just a couple weeks back. However, in the restart, it was then a showdown between Reese Stenberg and Brennan Waite. And Reese had passed Brennan for the lead. Brennan got back around him. Brennan went back to the high side. Reese went to the middle, and Reese caught him again, and they were side by side for several laps. They were kind of doing the crossover moves on each other. Out of turn 2 with about maybe 4 laps to go, Brennan was on the high side and Reese was through the middle, and they kind of just met coming out of the turn. And unfortunately, Reese went around. It was a racing deal. Caution was on Reese, and Reese went tail end. I think he had a bent tire rod during that incident as well, and finished 13th. But Reese was there for the stock car Stampede. Looked really good at the Stampede, even after being involved in a wreck. Was there on opening night this year, around for 2025. Looked really good. Won his heat, and would have for sure probably been that top, in the top 2 if that wouldn't have happened without it from turn 2. But that opened the door for some new players, which were Tanner Tice, who had worked his way up from 11th, and Aaron Beyer, who had also worked his way up from the middle of the field. Aaron kind of fell back during the feature and started marching his way back up front. So that was kind of cool to see too. So, but overall, it was Brennan Waite that held off the charge from Tanner Tice on the white flag lap and picked up the win. So Brennan won in his first race on that car for 2025. So brand new paint scheme for the 28 driver. First race on the car, picked up a win. And then Tanner had a very nice run in second. Some movers and shakers in that feature event, though. Scott Binns started deep in the field and finished 6th. I think he went up like 13th, 12 or 13 spots.
Yep.
And then there was a hard charger on there too that moved up 14 spots during that feature event as well, which was Tyler Schrenk, who started back, I believe, 22nd and finished in 8th. So definitely some movers within the Midwest Modified feature event. So Legends were next on the docket, and their feature took 7 minutes.
Oh, wow.
They didn't have one caution. It was caution-free. And it was Noah Madler picking up exactly where he left off from the Stampede. He won his heat to start the night, and he took home the feature event on night 1 of the season. So I actually asked Noah and Victor, and I said, boy, I said, you really have this track figured out? He's like, yeah, this is becoming my favorite racetrack. I said, I can see why. You've definitely got the track figured out with how last year at the Stampede he took the heat win, he took the dash win, and then he took the feature win against 50 Legends, and there was 35 Legends in attendance on Saturday night, and he won over Ty Olson in second, and just a great race overall within your Legends. There, and some names that we don't usually see maybe until the year-end specials, like Andy Bargman was there. Had worked his way up from 11th up to, I believe he finished 4th on the field. Good run for him within that 33 car. Brandon Anderson was in attendance, finished in the top 8. So that was kind of nice to see as well. And so, yeah, so just a good start to the season. Gage Mather was 3rd. So Preston Martin was finished in the 6th spot. And then Donovan Weiss was in 7th. So, those drivers will be fighting it out, I'm sure, for the season championship again here within the 2025 season. So backing up to your Midwest mods, they had 24 Midwest mods on Saturday, and as well so full field of Midwest modifieds. Street stocks, 18 Wissota street stocks were in attendance on Saturday night, and it was a battle between Billy Christ, who was looking to go back to back to back for future wins to start the season, because he has done that in Jamestown the last several years. Mm-hmm. And Cole Gresseth, who has been one of the hottest street stock drivers on the circuit. And Cole and Billy duked it out. They raced very clean. Cole passed him cleanly with 5 laps to go and ended up getting his first ever Jamestown win. So congratulations to Cole, a really good win for him on Saturday night, which on Friday night, he got his first ever win over at Fergus. So yeah, so we kind of knocked off 2 wins at some of his tracks that he's visited quite a bit over the past 5 years in the Wissota Street Stocks.
Yeah, he went +8 too.
He did. He started 9th on the field, and he worked his way up to the front. And that was a great battle too, because Billy was running more of that middle to high side, and Cole was more of the middle to the bottom. So yep, so they were kind of all over the track. Dustin Erickson found the high side late in that race and ended up finishing in 4th. He had a great battle with KCU Status for that 3rd spot. And Jordan Johnson, in a great paint scheme this year, that car looks so much different, it's going to take me a while to get used to, was 5th. So Jordan had a nice start to the season in the top 5. And then we move on to the IMCA modifieds. We had 26 of them in attendance on Saturday night, and that was probably one of the races of the night, to be honest with you, from just the amount of battles. I mean, there was a lot of really good battles on Saturday night, but that one was a fun one to watch, because you had Scott Gartner start on the pole. By the way, that's the first time I've seen Scott's mod up close and that far in person within Jamestown this year with our first night under the lights. It definitely stands out. I'm digging the new fluorescent painting scheme. It looks really nice. Yeah. So with that being said, though, he started on the pole, and he had the dark horse Travis Hagen to the high side. So what a front row, right? Scott, a past champion in Jamestown, has looked really good in the modifieds over the last several years now in Jamestown. And Scott took the lead to start that feature event, and it was Travis Hagen trying to track him down. Behind Hagen, you had 2 drivers that each started in the 6th row. So John Nord started 11th and was using the bottom to get to the front. And Jeremy Keller making his first appearance in Jamestown since 2022. It was nice to see Jeremy back in Jamestown. He was won his heat earlier in the night and started 12th and was using the high side to get up to 4th. And they were kind of closing in on the leaders as they kept going a little bit farther into that race. The most interesting part, though, about that race, too, was that we had some cautions. And each time we would restack them because it seemed like that Hagen needed laps and Keller needed laps. So if it kept running, they were able to kind of, catch up / stay in that area. Well, as soon as they got cautions, it was like, oh, now they got to redo it again. Now it took them a couple of times to get the higher side of the track worked in because Scott was running more at the bottom. Scott was more right around kind of that bottom and sliding up into the middle throughout the turns. So, but there was a caution coming out with about 5 laps to go. It restacked the leaders. Scott took the lead on the restart and led until about a lap and a half to go. Scott going into turns 1 and 2, pushed just a little bit, and that's all that Travis needed. Travis used the middle, got to his high side. They were side by side coming to the white flag lap, side by side into turns 1 and 2, and Travis got the run out of turn number 2 and picked up his first ever Jamestown Speedway win. Travis has won a lot of races over his years and has never visited Victory Lane in the winner's circle in Jamestown. So that was kind of cool to see for him. Scott was pretty dejected, but what a fun race. He finished second. Him and Travis had a great conversation in Victory Lane afterwards. You could just tell that they, the respect they have for each other. And then John Nord was third. Jeremy Keller finished fourth. Those two were also side by side at the line when they crossed the line for third. And then some hard charges in that race too, because you had Travis Tooley right up there in the top, 5-6. Marcus Tomlinson was right up there on the top, 5-6. And then you also had drivers like John Carell, who got some damage in his heat race, started 25th on the field in his brand new Rage chassis, finished 7th, 18 spots moved up. Yep. Zach Frederick, who had some damage in the heat race, started tail end, moved up to the top 9 from way in the back of the pack. So there was definitely some movers and shakers on Saturday night in each one of the divisions over in Jamestown. It was kind of fun to see. It was a good night overall. It was just a fun night overall to be back at the racetrack. And in 135 cars, really good car count for Jamestown and on Saturday night. And I'm looking forward to more racing action this week.
Boy, it always seems like the season opener in Jamestown, there's a lot of cars that show up for that.
There really is, right? Because last year we had the Rebel Tour, but last year was kind of a very similar situation to where there was a lot of rain across the state. But the difference between this year to last year is that it rained up until like that evening on Thursday and Friday. Because Friday I flew back into Bismarck from a conference. I was actually at a work conference before the Memorial Day weekend, and I remember flying into Bismarck. Man, it was canceled already because we had, just cold temperatures and rain. And it was just getting done raining in Jamestown because it was snowing in Devil's Lake.
Oh, gosh.
Because the Peace Gardens had snow. I remember that as plain as day. The Peace Gardens up by the border had snow, and Devil's Lake had some snow on the ground too. And and it was just getting done raining in Jamestown, and they weren't sure if they were going to run until Saturday morning. They made the decision they were going to run, and we ended up with 152 cars last year on a season opener, 135 cars this year. So, yeah, really good car counts.
Yeah. Sounds like a action-packed season opener. I was like, gosh, I really was bummed that I was going to miss the season opener because usually there's, like you said, a lot of cars that show up and a lot of action too. So that's a good start to Jamestown for the year.
Yeah, and here's Mason, all of our race fans and racing people out there. He's like, if Jamestown cancels, maybe I can, I might be coming to Jamestown potentially next weekend, so maybe I could actually see the season opener then. I was like, no, Mason, no. We don't need you to bring your rain and moisture stuff over on season opener.
Sad part is he's not wrong. I was slightly hoping that they would cancel, so I would not miss the season opener. Sometimes when you're someone like me and you're like trying to debate between like a few places to go race, it's like you just want Mother Nature to kind of make the decision easier for you.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
But that's all right. That's a great opener for Jamestown. I hope they have a bunch of more cars that show up this upcoming weekend because I will say I am planning to come over to Jamestown this next Saturday. As long as I don't like kill myself in the marathon that morning. So the other race that was taking place on Saturday, and I'll kind of lump this in with Sunday because I was at the same place, Viking Speedway for the Memorial Weekend doubleheader, headlined by the Dirt Race Central Street Stock Tour, which we had 25 cars on hand Saturday and 29 on Sunday. A little smaller car count than I was probably expecting, but with the cars there, very good quality and very, very stout field of drivers for both of those nights. And unfortunately, I know Royce Jaworski was going to make it over there on Sunday, but he broke down about 30 minutes from the track.
Oh, his truck broke down. Okay.
Yeah, I drove past a trailer and I'm like, that has North Dakota plates. And I'm like, oh shoot, that was Royce. Dang it.
Hmm.
Because he had kicked off his season in Fergus on Friday, so I think he was planning to make at least one night, but fortunately, as pickup said no. So I'll recap both these nights at the same time because we had a couple of clean sweeps on the weekend. And so I'll start with the Midwest Modifieds, which the Midwest Modified race on Saturday was a dandy. And so Ryan Flodden, who started on the pole, pretty much checked out in the field, had a couple early cautions, but he was starting to gap the field towards the end of the race. But the guy that was on the move, Travis Ingebretson, the 1X, started 11th. Now, most of the cars were running the bottom part of the speedway, and so that was kind of clogging things up. And so Travis was like, what the heck? I'll just go to the high side. Well, he passed like three, four cars in one lap, and he got to second with about 4 laps to go. And he was probably like half a straightaway behind Flotten at this point. But you could just see he was railing the high side. And like most tracks, the track had a little character, but had a lot of moisture in it. So you could see he was visibly catching him and catch him. Got to his back bumper at the white flag, pulled alongside Flatten on the back straightaway, and made the race-winning pass out of turn four to get the feature win on Saturday. So big congrats to Travis Engebretson on kind of stealing the win away. And he would double up on the weekend as he would also win Sunday night, which he's gone 3 for 3 at the Viking Speedway to start the season. So
Wow.
yeah, he's the guy to beat right now in the Midwest Modifieds out in Alexandria. And so tough break for Ryan Flon, who finished runner-up on Saturday. Taylor Bitson was third, Harry Dykoff fourth, and Tanner Bitson was your top five on Saturday, while Corey Stark was your runner-up on Sunday. Sean Olson third, Ron Sauer in fourth, and Tanner Bitson fifth there. Now, your street stocks were second on the program both nights. Again, very stacked field of cars. Saturday, we had a little bit of carnage to start things off, but tough hit for Ashley Wampler. She had to get checked out by the medical crew a little brief for some whiplash, but she was okay. She'd actually come back the next night and race, and so I was really surprised at that,
Hmm.
and surprised that they got the car put back together with some help. And so that was good to see that pretty much everyone that was involved in the wrecks made it back the next day as well. But Kyle Dykoff, who's been, believe it or not, never won a feature at the Viking Speedway. He's been second, I don't know how many times, but that is the one track that has kind of been his Achilles heel. Well, he had to work hard to get around Levi Rant early in the race, and he, thank goodness that there was probably a long green flag run at the end of the race because the guy on the move was Nick Trainer.
Mm.
Nick had some trouble in his heat race. I think he said he blew a belt. So he started 19th and he got to second with about 3 laps to go. By that time, Kyle Dykoff was about good 10, 12 car lengths out in front. So Kyle got the win. First win he has at Viking Speedway. Nick Trainer from 19th to second. Josh Long with a good run from 7th up to 3rd. So good race on Saturday in your street stocks. And we moved to Sunday. Not much changed. Kyle Dykoff started inside row 3. Had to battle hard with the '04 Tommy Bagonis this time around. They were side by side for several laps, and then through a bevy of cautions, no one could keep up with Kyle on the restarts. He was the guy to beat, especially when the groove is on the bottom. Very tough to beat a Viking when Kyle's on the bottom. So he would go on to double up on the night in the Dirt Race Central Street Stock Tour. Nick Trainer once again, starting deeper in the field, 11th up to second. Couldn't quite stay with Kyle this time around. And Andrew Hansen finished in third. Andrew was not there Saturday, but came over on Sunday for a good run there. In your Hornets on Saturday, caution-free race, the 35 of Chase Poyer checked out and was gone all the way back to his hometown of Fergus Falls. Like,
Mm.
there was no one anywhere close to him. So he got a big win in the 35 machine. Craig Anderson in the 90 in a very cool looking car. That was one of the schemes that Jessup picked out a couple weeks ago. Had won the makeup race earlier in that night for the Hornets, and he got to second round Matt Dittman, who is not an easy guy to beat as well. And so that was your top three on Saturday night. Sunday night turned into a really good race for the majority of it between Brady Albertson, Greg Anderson again, and Adam Vanderstein. They were 2 and 3 wide for several laps. They were kind of going through lap traffic, and as they were going through lap traffic, Anderson and Vanderstein got together going down the front stretch, and both of them ended
Mm.
up at the wall.
Mm.
So that kind of opened the door for Brady Albertson to kind of get the win on a green-white checkered, and so he gets the win. Adam was able to continue to finish in second, and Travis Bruns in the 27 was third. So that was your Hornet action from Alexandria. Super stocks were also on the card, and little bit of moving and shaking in this race. Ryan Kostreba in the 17, one of the fastest super stocks that you'll find over in Alexandria, kind of grabbed the lead away from Matt Miller and Brady Gurris early and was kind of searching around the track, kind of trying to find the right group. But again, with a little bit of character and a little bit of moisture, sometimes if you hit a rut run or you get a little too high, may cause some
Hmm.
trouble. And he was in the lead and he got a little too high off of turns 1 and 2, and unfortunately lost the lead to Matt Miller about 2/3 of the way through the race. And then he had some mechanical trouble a few laps later. So tough break for Ryan Kostreba, who looked like he was going to get the feature win. But that allowed the 13M of the Mopar, Matt Miller, to get the win. Brady Gertis in second, who's racing a super stock this year as well. And Brady Roche in the 28 Star was third. And Sunday, the super stocks had a caution-free race where we had Ryan Satter set sail on the field. He had that car dialed in, and it has a wrap on it now, John.
It does. It looks nice. I saw that. I saw it's got a really nice design.
Yeah, really nice looking scheme, and he checked out on the field. Kobe Keel came over on Sunday, started outside pole. He was a distant second, didn't really have a chance to close on in, but Ryan Satter led green to checkered for his first win of 2025. Colt Keel in second, William one rounded out the top three in a very fast Superstock race. And then in your modifieds, night one, Brendan Blosick, first time out for him this year. Kind of a theme here. A lot of these drivers that kind of come out for the first time of the year look really fast out of the gate. Well, Brendan Blosick was one. He started on the pole and he was gone. Another guy that was gone. He had to hold off Josh Tennis on a restart or two, but not really anyone staying within his zip code. So Brendan Blosick gets the win on Saturday in the modifies. Josh Tennis in second, and Brady Gurris rounded out your top three. Sunday, a little bit different story because one of the hot shoes out there, Dusty Bitson, was struggling quite a bit on Saturday. This car didn't look up to speed. So Sunday, he got the chance to run a couple of hot laps in between the heat races because they did a motor change. So that ended up being the winning ticket
Mhm.
because Sunday, he was well past Fergus Falls and not halfway back to Fargo with the lead he had on the rest of the field. He was absolutely gone. So that was a great move by the 10X team to make that engine change between days. Justin Fremming, first time out in his car, was at second. Brady Gurris third. Jason Tennis fourth, and Avery Anderson fifth. So two relatively quick nights of racing over in Alexandria, done by about 10. Saturday was probably about closer to 10:15, 10:20, because we had a couple red flags, unfortunately. But overall, very good, solid night of or 2 nights of racing in Alexandria. So
Nice.
then Sunday, John, you went up to the Nodak Speedway for the first of their doubleheader. How did that
Yes, I
go?
was up at Nodak, and racing action was awesome up at Nodak on Sunday. They did a really good job. Track was very nice the whole entire night. Heats were a little but that's heats in general, right? But
Yeah.
the track really came around for the features. They did a really nice job and got the track into really good shape. And track was good for the heats too. It was just more fall leader kind of around the bottom.
Mhm.
But during the feature events, they started their features with the IMCA Sport Mods on Sunday. And within the IMCA Sport Mod division, the winner of that was the youngster, Keenan Glauser. So looked really good in that 22 machine that he's got set up this year within the Midwest Modified division. He had to hold off the likes of the Trad Strachan. He also had Robbie Roselli right there. You had Gabe DeShaw up there. You also had Ryder Raynard. I felt kind of bad for Ryder because during one of the races, during one of the caution stints, he was kind of one of the drivers that was one of the first ones that went to the high side and got it to work. Well, he broke the left front.
Yeah, I saw a video of it.
Yeah, and he was doing pretty good on three wheels, but you could definitely tell when the groove got higher and higher and higher. I'm like, yeah, that's going to be hard to hold on, and it was hard to hold on for him in that 18 machine. So because he's right in the thick of the points battle up there too, with within the points championship up in the Nodak Speedway. So yep, but it was King that got the win. Great job to him. He ran a great race over there in that 22 machine. In your sport compacts, the sport compact division was entertaining to say the least. So it was Zach Eubanks who used a great move on the start to get to the lead into turns 1 and 2. And he led a majority of that race until all of a sudden one of the youngsters in the 18 machine was making his presence known, and that was Kyle Eklund. And Kyle was slowly reeling him in, got to the inside of him with about 2 laps to go, and made the pass under the white flag to pick up the win. Unfortunately, he was DQ'd in victory lane because of the fact of the matter there was something on the car that didn't meet the spec for IMCA. So he was DQ'd, and it was Zach Eubanks that ended up picking up the feature win over Dayton Kent in second place on Sunday. So that was the Sport Compact feature event. In your IMCA stock cars, they were up next. So the stock car division, very good at car counts both nights. They were in the 25 to 26 range both nights. And that feature was super entertaining to watch because the groove moved a lot in that feature event. The groove was more back down to the bottom part of the track to start that feature event. And it was Will Suretsky who runs the bottom, probably one of the best drivers on the bottom in Minot, even at the McLean County Speedway in Underwood. He picked up the lead with about, maybe a handful of laps completed, held onto it for a while until drivers such as Gabe DeShaw, Brock Beater, and Dalton Flory had his stock car out over in Minot this weekend for both nights, which is kind of cool to see. But it was definitely the Gabe DeShaw and Brock Beater show that were kind of making their charge to the front through the field. And they had found a little bit of the bottom, but Brock also found the high side. So Adam Goth had found the high side deeper in the field, and Brock Beater went up to the high side and found the high side on a restart and started working it in. And Brock made the pass on the high side for the win with about 4 laps to go. And Gabe also got around Will Suretsky, and it was Brock Beater who picked up another win in Minot. Very popular win in Minot too, I might add, within that race because it was one of those wins to where you could tell that eventually the high side was going to come in, and he was just working it, and then all of a sudden it just started picking up speed. You could just tell it got faster and faster. And yep, he stayed with it and got the high side to work and got the win. So congratulations to Brock Beater on another good win on Sunday. IMCA Hobby Stocks were next, and Kyler Satrin set sail over the field. It was Kyler Satrin and Jason Ruby. Ruby was back in the 23 car this weekend, and those two looked really good, not just in their heat races, but also in the feature event. The driver, though, that was on the move, that kind of was struggling for the first half of that feature event was Caden Appelt. Caden was really struggling with getting the cars to turn within both of the turns. He was either tight or then he would get loose. So kind of a weird mix for him until he found the high side. Caden went to the high side, and Mason, when he finds the high side of that track, he is fun to watch, and he was banking it off the cushion.
Oh,
up there.
Cushion,
Yep, banking it off the cushions as he went into turns 1 and 2 and also into 3 and 4. And there was a late race caution with like 2 laps to go because I don't think he would have got Satrin. I think he got up to second. And at that time, Satrin was about maybe 5 to 6 car lengths ahead, and they just took the white flag when a caution came out, so they reverted back to 2 to go. And Caden passed him on the white flag lap and picked up the win on the high side. And yeah, there was nobody going to deny Caden on that high side because he was just flying around the track on the high side. So Caden won. Kyler and Jason Ruby had a great battle for second and third. And then in your modified division, we had some travelers in the modifieds. So you had 24 modified drivers there on Saturday night, a very stout field of drivers, as you even had some of past track champions in Minot and actually in Nodak up there with Sean Strand and Mark Dahl. They were both in attendance on Sunday night. And those two drivers looked really good in their heat races, started deeper in the field for the features because it was point invert. So started deeper in the field, and Dahl was slowly working his way to the front, along with Travis Hagen and Stephen Pfeiffer. Drew Christensen looked really good that whole feature event, and so did Zach Doctor. Zach Doctor started on the pole and was just railing the bottom of the speedway. So you put Zach on the bottom, and he's really good. And but there was a caution that happened with 3 laps in, and that was between Dahl and Hagen. Dahl had cut down just a little bit, and Hagen was already there in the middle part of the track when they were going into 3 and 4. Hagen went up, Dahl came down, they made contact, Dahl spun on the front bumper of Hagen, Hagen went tail end for the restart. Complete racing deal. So Dahl got his spot back and had managed to work his way into that battle for the lead with Zach Doctor, Drew Christensen, and Stephen Pfeiffer. So those drivers were all battling really hard up front. The driver, though, I was watching Hagen because I knew the high side was there just by watching the features before that. And I was like, there's probably not a better driver on the high side in Minot than Travis Hagen. Travis got to be probably one of the best ones on the high side in Minot. You put him on the high line, he just flies in Minot. And Travis had restarted tail end with 22 to go. By the time you had completed another maybe 10 laps, he was already up to the top 7. And by the time he got a little bit farther to the front, he was up into the battle for the top 5. There was several cautions throughout this feature event towards the later stages of the feature. They were pretty clean and green to start off with, but towards later stages there was cautions. And as they kept going, and it was a 3-wide battle for second between Pfeiffer and also Drew Christensen, and then you had Hagen going on the high side. Drew went to the middle in turns 1 and 2, and that gave the run that Hagen needed. Hagen split him going on the back straightaway, got into second with about 4 laps to go, and got Dahl coming out of turn 2 with about 3 to go and picked up the feature win after going tail end in that feature event. So yeah, so it was a really good race, and very clean race too. Overall within your modifieds, not a whole lot of carnage in the modified division at all. Actually, not really a whole lot of carnage in any of the classes. More just kind of that single car spin / somebody spins, somebody might run into them and some stuff like that. So yeah, but overall, really good run for Travis Hagen, and really good show overall for Minot on night 1 of 2 of their Memorial Day weekend, because they had 117 cars the first night. So very good car count.
Yeah, I was watching some of the highlights from that night because people were saying like the features were really good, and I was watching a little bit. I'm like, dang, that you picked a good night to go up to Nodak.
The features were very good. Track was in extremely good shape.
Yeah, kudos to the Nodak track prep crew. They've been doing really well over the last year or so, and it's really showing with races like that. Well, I guess I should finish off the Memorial Day weekend, and we still had quite a few races taking place on Monday, including the season opener for the Cheyenne Speedway, their traditional Memorial Day race. They were scheduled to open up a week ago, but unfortunately, Mother Nature had other plans. Very, very good field of cars. 102 cars checked in, so very good field. They had changed up the classes a little bit because they're under a different promoters group with the Hendricksons, the parents of Evan Hendrickson, who drives the IMCA Race Saver Sprint, and also Myron Shockard, who is part of the track prep crew there as well. So, whole brand new group of people running it, a whole bunch of people in different roles. So, obviously there's going to be some hiccups and, continually learning experience as they go along throughout the season. But to have 102 cars show up for their first race, like they were super, super stoked about that. And like a lot of other tracks, had some character in it. So, but I think the racing was pretty entertaining. And so we'll go right into the street stocks, which we have 16 street stocks, which is a really good field of street stocks for Lisbon, and a lot of heavy hitters. You got Cole Gresseth, Hunter Carter, Billy Christ, Trey Hess, Mike Munn, Casey Sass, just a whole bevy of people. And started off with Billy Christ on the front row. Usually when he's on the front row, he's pretty tough to beat, but boy, he had some challengers behind him. So you had Cole Gresseth and Trey Hess kind of breathing down his neck for the first few laps, and Trey Hess on a restart made it 3 wide around the outside of both Gresseth and Chris to take the lead. Now I thought he was going to drive away from that point, but Gresseth and Chris were both hounding him. He was kind of entering a different line than what those two were going, so they were continually kind of like right to the back bumper. But Trey kind of adjusted his line throughout the race and then kind of get out himself some breathing room towards the end. So he got his first Cheyenne Speedway feature win in the 4 machine, and he's been putting on a ton of miles to start the 2025 season. So big win for Trey Hess in the 4, started 7th. Cole Gresseth ended up in 2nd, and Billy Christ was 3rd. So really good race to kick off feature action. Your NX Legends were up next. Very good field of legends. 31 legends show up. So they had to run a B main. Started 20 of them. And without naming names, here's the movement of the top 6 at the end of the race. +9, +9, +14, no change, +14, +12.
Mm-hmm.
So there's a lot of passing. There's also a lot of action in this race. And so it started off with Sean Johnson, who's a past track champion at Cheyenne Speedway. He was duking it out at the front with Cody Mackhart, and they kind of swapped the lead a couple of times. Cody ended up getting underneath him in 3 and 4 to take the lead, and he looked like he was on cruise control for the rest of the race. Had to survive a couple cautions, but then with a handful of laps to go, his car just quit, coming out of turn 4 in the lead. And Cody Jaworski was running 2nd, unfortunately got in the back of him as he slowed up, and that took the top 2 out. And from what I heard, I think it was like fuel line that disconnected for the 7 machine of Mackhart. So very
interesting.
Yeah, very, very tough break. And so that handed the lead to Sean Johnson, who had fallen back to third at that point on the restart. But then you have a new player in the mix. You have Ty Olson, who restarted third. And he got the high side working on the restart. He slingshotted around Sean Johnson to take the lead, and he would go on to get his first Cheyenne Speedway feature win as well. Scotty Richardson ended up in second and Dusty Munn in third. And though, like I said, those drivers started way deep in the field, so a lot of moving and shaking your NX Legends. So very, very good race. A lot of lead changes in
Hmm.
that race as well. Up next were your Midwest Modifieds with a full field of 24, and we had some carnage. Had a 9 to 10 car pileup in turn two. The six of Langland got sideways off of one of the ruts and unfortunately collected a bunch of cars. Everyone was besides Lang was able to kind of drive off, but just too much damage for a lot of them to continue. So we lost a few drivers from there. So Scott Hansen and Nate Reinke were kind of duking it out up front, along with Brennan Waite. Now, Brennan Waite, who usually when he starts up towards front is very tough to beat, had trouble getting around Scott Hansen in 3 and 4, and unfortunately got into his right rear and got himself sideways and spun out in front of the field. And so that unfortunately ended the night for Brennan Waite. So
Mm.
one of the hot shoes out of the way there. So then Reinke and Hansen continue to battle, but then again, restarts very key to on this night. Jory Berg railed the high side in turns 1 and 2 and snuck around both of them, and so then he started to set sail. Once Nate Reinke got around Scott Hansen, then they were battling side by side with Berg for several laps. Jory Berg was doing all he could to hold him off, and he would end up getting the feature win. So big congrats to Jory Berg, another first-time Cheyenne Speedway feature win for the BO. Nate Reinke ended up in second. Lucas Rodin from 14th up to third. He was struggling in his heat race, so started deeper in the field. And Kyle Anderson, 19th to fourth. So a lot of passing in the
Mhm.
Midwest Modifieds as well. There is also action in your hobby stocks and bombers. Only 9 of them, but plenty of action. Billy Carroll and Bradley Stopperworth were kind of kicking things off, duking it out, battling side by side. Bradley actually got the lead away from Billy midway through the race, but they had a couple of cautions to kind of sort things out. And then that opened the door for Riker Vetter, who's looked really good in his hobby stock to start off 2025. Fortunately, he and Billy got made contact, which ended up spinning Billy around in the battle for second. So Riker had to go tail. But then Billy, using some kind of misfortune to the 34, as the 34 was kind of slowing down a little bit as the race went on. So Billy got around him on a restart and held off Brent Wilkinson to get the feature win. And that was, from what Billy said, that was his first feature win in a few years. It's been
Wow.
it's
Yeah,
been
it's
a
been a
few years
while, I
since
would suppose. Yep.
yeah, been a few years since Billy Carroll's been in victory lane, so he was very emotional in victory lane. Brent Wilkinson in second. Bradley Stopworth did hang on for third, but just something amiss underneath the 34 machine in the last few laps. Your Gen X late models, first time to the Speedway on a regular basis at the Cheyenne Speedway. Boy, they were fast on that track. Like, especially with moisture in there, they were hauling. Alex Shockert in a really cool Tribute 01 Gen X late model checked out on the field. Unfortunately, he got a little too high in 3 and 4 in the lead. So, unfortunately, his stint in the lead was short lived, which handed lead over to Jeff Nelson, who's only got 4 nights in the car. But he looked like a true veteran because he would hold a steady line, would yard the field, and no one really challenged him
Mhm.
for his first feature win in several years. So big congrats once again to the 33 of Jeff Nelson. Mike Anderson finished in second, and Jared Hoos in the 27 was third. And then your short trackers and Hornets finished off the night, and they're always entertaining to watch. A little bit of beating and banging and paint swapping. Travis Roush, Hunter Goulet, and Mason Bogart going 2 and 3 wide at various points throughout the race. Travis, who kind of travels all over Wasota and IMCA country, had to hold off a hard challenge from Hunter Goulet, but he would get his first Cheyenne Speedway feature win as well, with Goulet in second and Mason Bogart in third. And
Hmm.
so that capped off a fun Memorial Day Monday at Cheyenne Speedway. Good job to the crew there on a good and fun first night, and they'll just continue to pile up
Mhm.
the notebook for notes to continue to improve things moving forward. But I think for them, they had a good first night,
Mhm.
so really happy for them. So that finished off a very hectic and busy Memorial Day weekend.
Yeah, 5 nights for you, 2 nights for me. Um, just a busy weekend overall. I had a lot of fun this weekend too, just because I was at the racetracks, got to see people I haven't seen for a while, did a lot of promotional stuff for the Mary Vetter Hobby Stock Challenge Series as well, because that's going to be upcoming here. starting on the 6th of June in Mandan. Then it goes to Jamestown on the 7th of June. So that'll be the start of it for the weekend because they're doing 3 weekends total wise, or actually 4 weekends, I believe, total wise for that tour and for that series. So it'll be a good show. But did a lot of that, and a lot of those drivers that were in Jamestown on Saturday that I talked to plan on running several of those shows, if not all of them. So that'll be kind of cool to see. So should see a really good field of drivers, hopefully over in Mandan in about a week, and then as well over in Jamestown on the 7th of June. But also the Ericksons were back in town this weekend.
Yes.
So Charlie announced for years over at the Dakota Speedway and the Jamestown Speedway. Mitch and Deb have been very big supporters of dirt track racing throughout the state. They made a trip up here for the Memorial Day weekend a little bit, and we got to hang out, reminisce, and just kind of catch up over there all this weekend in between the race events. So that was a lot of fun. So really good, enjoyable weekend overall.
Yeah, and Mitch actually works with the High Limit series, so he gets to travel all across the country.
That is correct. So they flew back home today, which is we're taping this on a Tuesday. So they flew back to the Charlotte area today, and he actually gets on a plane in a couple days to go to the next race for the High Limits.
Yeah, the racing and the fun never stops, it seems like, no matter
It
where
doesn't.
you're at. Well, howdy, Jessup. Welcome to the show. How you been doing, buddy?
We're doing it. It's a Tuesday night at about midnight. Trying to keep up with you guys. Trying to catch up, tag the rear of the field, and then work my way back up to my rightful position, which is at the pole.
Well, don't worry. This is kind of a hodgepodge mess of an episode because it's been a crazy week and I'm not issuing any, or I should say, the podcast committee is not issuing any penalties from this episode. It's just way too confusing.
That doesn't help me.
No, you and I are still in the back.
Well, Becca didn't even make the show, so she should go to the rear.
It's way too complicated. The editor
It's
already
not.
has enough
All
work to
you
deal
gotta
with.
do is you just give her the black flag, and then she goes to the rear.
I'm stayed out of this. I'm just the editor. That's all I am.
I'm just an editor. It's just like that. I'm just a bill up on Capitol Hill.
Oh gosh, don't get another silly song stuck in my head. How
What's
was your
wrong?
weekend?
That was educational.
I'm sure it was very
Full House
educational.
Rock.
Oh wait, yeah, you're right. I do remember
Yeah.
watching it. Oh my gosh, that's a long time ago.
But it was very educational back when, like, legislature actually was like meaningful and not bought off and paid for or corrupt.
This could be a whole nother podcast in itself. How was your weekend?
Yeah, you know what? It was okay, all things considered. The baby hasn't been feeling too good lately. And it's like the last week and a half has been like every 2 hours at night she'll wake up, and mom and dad are very tired and very sleep deprived, which leads for grumpy people.
Well, I'm a little sleep deprived myself, but it's not because of a baby.
That's self-inflicted. I don't feel bad for you.
That is definitely self-inflicted. I think my average time of going to bed is probably like 2:15, 2:20 in the morning at this point for the last 4 days.
Yeah, I believe that.
Yeah, don't be yawning either, because I still have a lot of work to do tonight, and it's almost midnight.
It is. We're burning the late night oil to get our show out to everybody.
Yes, I actually got a shout out, not a shout out, but I got wind of another listener over in the Fargo area. Austin Verrowroot tunes into the podcast. So
now, Austin, you know what you need to do. You need to go and leave us a 5-star review with a nice comment so I can respond to your comment and read it aloud on our next podcast.
yes, because now that Jessup is done with school for the regular year, he has all the time in the world now.
No, yes and no. I will say yes and no because we're taking baby out of daycare, and Miss Riley and I are going to go terrorize the zoo.
Oh, that'll be fun.
I think if they have bears, I'm going to teach her how to feed the bears pancakes.
Okay.
We always,
Nice.
yeah. Long story short, uh, when I was a kid, my father and I would always go to the zoo on New Year's Eve, and they would have a big fireworks show and all this fun activities, and we would always make pancakes. And we had a big grizzly bear exhibit back home, and you could kind of like frisbee the pancakes over the like the spectating glass, and we would always throw the bear's pancakes, and the challenge was to get them right in the bear's mouth.
Wow. I haven't really seen Riley kind of throw things yet, but my guess is that she probably needs to work on the distance thing a little bit to start with.
Well, the first couple of years, Dad's going to be probably doing the work and doing the running for the both of us as we're getting chased around the zoo. But we'll get her there.
Okay. You'll have to let me know how that progresses as time goes on.
Oh, I will, and it will be a segment someday.
Oh, a weekly segment. How far has the pancake been thrown by Riley this week?
The hot sauce, hot pursuit moment of the week. And here we have Riley and Jessup being chased out of the zoo exhibits by the zookeepers. Tune back in next week to see how far they make it this time.
Gosh. Oh gosh. Well, that's an interesting shirt you're wearing. What shirt do you have on for this week?
I am wearing a Ryan Bowers 199 sprint car, more well known with the UMSS 360 sprints back in their initial starting phase before they went to whatever motor PureTech motors that they're running now. I don't know if they're still using those, but that was kind of the end of that for them. Ryan's out of Minnesota. I believe he married Anna Kuba. I could be wrong,
Oh,
but good, happy sprint car racing family. Um, I think he just retired last year. I think it was his last one, and he ran a 410, and that was kind of cool. So it was always a really strong runner, had really nice equipment, and yeah, I got one of his shirts that they tossed out.
usually he would make a weekend trip over to like Grand Forks and usually I'd see him once a year in this
Yep.
area. So
Yeah. So that's what
neat.
I'm rocking this week. Something new, something different. Whereas you guys were duplicates, I've been told.
Yep. This is a new hat. The B1 Brody Carlsrud gave me this hat last Friday, so it's a new hat, so I do have some new swag.
Lucky.
Well, he was in a very cheerful mood on Friday.
Uh,
I'll just put it that way.
Winning does tend to help you feel better about yourself.
Very true. Very true. Yeah,
It
and I
makes
had to rep.
everybody in the pit feel better about you too. So, congratulations, buddy. You did good. You done good, kiddo.
Yes. Big win, and that was honestly a nerve-wracking race to watch, just because I know Brody so well and been close to him the last couple of years, and it's like that was the longest 20 lap A main I've seen in a while.
I know the feeling. It didn't work out as well for my buddy this week, but um, we're happy for Brody.
Mhm.
Hmm.
Yep.
Hmm.
Hopefully the first of many for this year and going forward as well.
We're gonna nickname him the B1 Bomber
Isn't that already taken? I think
by
that's already
Brent
taken.
by Brent Larson. Yes, but
Yeah.
it's okay. It can be renewed. Brent's only running the number, not the actual scheme that actually made it really cool.
That would be an interesting throwback for Brody to do on a stock car one year, though.
Yeah, yeah, it would be.
Well, and remember, Jessup really likes throwback schemes, so this would fit right up your alley. Legit throwback.
You know, Mason, one of these episodes, we're going to talk about how I became the throwback scheme master, and then how you and John send and harass me with photos of cars that you call throwbacks just to give me a hard time.
So I wish I remembered which driver it was, but I was talking to
It
a
was
driver.
Pat Kelly. He had his late model, and he had pieced it together with like 14 different tins. And what made it fascinating for me, if you're old enough to remember this, and I know Mason probably is, the old Rat Bag Dirt Track Racing version 1, which, by the way, had the coolest box ever. We'll talk more about that in a moment. But a lot of the cars looked like they were almost crumpled up, a little dirty, and it, like the cool looking one of it was like the generic flame. And Pat's car happened to look like one of those late models from the dirt track racing game. And I said, wow, that's kind of cool. It reminds me of a throwback to the dirt track racing game. And ever since then, I've got, this is a throwback too. And it'll be like a car with just duct tape on it. Oh, that's a dress up approved paint wrap scheme. Ho, 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 ho.
So there's a funny story from this weekend. I was talking with one of the street stock drivers, Grady Myers. He's out of South Dakota. And I'm going to show you his scheme real quick because the conversation I had with him in the pits was interesting. So that's his car. Kind of nice, very, very simple design.
Uh-huh.
Which actually I feel like he has a different one too. Anyways, but
That's
he
a
mentioned that
throwback.
it's like he's like I'm not a big fan of the whole like 80 different colors on cars and the sponsors get all lost in it and it's
Hold
like,
on. What do we call those, Mason?
well, what do you call you call tribal tattoos?
The tribal tattoo cars.
Yes. And so he's like, well, and then like 80% of the cars have like a slash going from like the left front up to the like diagonally, and I'm just like, oh my gosh, if Jessup was here, he would be giving you a high five so
Oh
fast right
gosh,
now.
that's hilarious. Yes. Too true.
So you were at Jamestown with John on Saturday, and you were up in the flag stand. So how did you view the night from your perspective?
It was cold and like a damp cold up in the flag stand.
Oh, I'm sure.
It was not fun. Everyone else had fun. Um, no, I'm joking. Overall, the night was good. It was a typical opening night of Jamestown. Track was pretty solid. Racing was good. Good car counts across all the fields. A lot of fun fields of cars.
Mhm.
Especially modifieds. Modifieds had uh, kind of the who's who of all the tracks around. Um, Only one really missing, I would say, would be kind of the guys out east. I don't recall seeing too many Fargo guys. Eh,
Yeah, that's like the one area that probably wasn't represented a ton in Jamestown, but everywhere else, you got people from
It
every
was
corner of the state.
it was really cool because you had one or two big hitters from like you had one or two from Williston with um, Travis Tooley, and then who else was over there from
Or
there?
like Hagen and
Yep. And then I would say Williston would have been represented by Hagen, and then Kyler Jeffrey was there representing the super far west. And then Nodak had a handful of guys. You could say Marcus was the representative there for them, being is he the current track champion there?
no,
No,
I
or is he
believe
former?
I don't know if he's won a track championship at
I
Nodak. I'd
thought
have
he
to double
did.
check on that.
I thought he just won one.
I don't think he did. I think Pfeiffer won last year's. I'll check that. Brock
Here,
Beer was
roll.
also there too in his mod.
Yep, he looked good. Let's pull up Jamestown. I'm not like John. I with a Rain Man memory.
I was thinking too, because he's in DC right now where it's supposed to rain all week. I was saying that he might be turning into Rain Man on more than one level because it seems like the moisture's following him these days.
You will always be our Rain Man for the weather side.
Well, that's person number two I've failed to persuade on that. So maybe person number three will be on my side.
Let's see. No, it was good. You had Scotty Gardner representing John Nord and Andy Cap and that group representing kind of like the Jamestown holding on to their own turf. And then, those people always out there. There's always people out there, Mason, complaining that the Mandan locals never travel. And they had Jeremy Keller representing them. So that was cool. it was just a really fun group. Fargo had Lindsey Hansen, which is kind of a fun name. He's got a unique looking car. I like it. Um,
Yep.
but yeah, all things considering, Mason, it was a really fun uh, late, not late model, but modified field. Oh, might not have would have had Chris Tuchscher as well. I don't want to forget him. Caden Roberts would be a good one for Dickinson area. So really a nice mix of drivers and yeah, you can't really be too upset about that. And yeah, I just like saying yeah,
Yeah. Yeah,
yeah.
because a lot of them were over in Fargo because a lot of the races kind of were canceled out west. And so with it being the long weekend, it's like, well, let's go race somewhere if it's racing. And so they kind of all, it was cool because they all pitted together in West Fargo. And I assume that a lot of them pit together over in Jamestown as well. So kind of like a nice little weekend trip for a lot of those Western
From
folks.
what I heard, I'm surprised they even raced in Fargo.
Believe me, I was there too. I was like, I'm actually surprised because usually with 3 days of rain, the track is not, I mean, it wasn't the smoothest, obviously, but usually the moisture is just ridiculous after that much rain.
But you know what? I mean, in all seriousness, hats off to Fargo and Red River Valley Speedway for getting a night in, and it's a ballsy call because everyone's itching at the chomping at the bit to get out to the track and race, and those type of nights you can make a call either way, and you're going to upset people.
Hmm.
If you don't race, you're going to have people say it's a gorgeous night. Why are we racing? And if you do race, you could upset people. It's saying, I just junked my brand new car. Why did we race? But so good for them to get their night in and power through.
I was thinking that exact same thing because if they were to cancel, it was an absolutely gorgeous day, like hardly any wind, 70, 72 degrees, perfect, perfect conditions. So it's like if you have a chance of racing on a day like that, I would say lean towards yes.
Yeah, I would agree. But
Now I heard there was a lot of cautions on Saturday night as well.
yeah, yeah, there was quite a few in classes. Some classes went pretty good. Once they got to the Legends feature, it was only like a 7-minute feature to get 20 laps done. But then you had other classes, such as the hobby stocks, that wanted to use their full allotment of time, whatever that was going to be, and they wanted to make sure everyone had something like to pound out some sort of damage on their car. So, no, you know what? I think it was a good opening night. Nothing too crazy from. Oh, hold on, gotta get that off
Well,
there.
that's the other thing too. It's opening night too. So a lot of those drivers is probably their first time out for the entire year. So trying to get their bearings straight, trying to figure out like, oh yeah, this is how I go around the track, or like if they have a new car, a new setup. It's just like a whole bunch of unknown factors, I'm sure.
Yeah, and like I said earlier, it was good racing across all the fields of cars. Really fun fields. Midwest Mods had pretty much it was a who's who of Midwest North Dakota Midwest Mod guys there. With Devil's Lake being off, it brought some drivers over as well. The street stocks had a really good field of cars. I thought not not a super a lot like quantity, but you had a really good quality field.
Mhm.
Um, Cole Gress has a good one to poke out, and then you had Casey Usadis, and then the Michelsons came up from South Dakota, so that was great to see those guys. And then you had your locals. I mean, uh, Dustin Erickson, Jordan Johnson, the Critter was out there. I mean,
He's got a cool looking car this year.
it is cool. It's very different. The black and blue was a nice looking car for him this year. So,
Yeah.
um, like I said, my main thing, we were joking about it earlier. I don't really remember the winners, which is probably like some people will be like, "How don't you know? You're in the flag stand." Well, there's a handful of reasons. One, I have a lot of other things to worry about in the flag stand than just watching a race, and two, it I don't like being biased And I know people are like, well, if you go to people's pits, it'll show that you're biased. And I say, well, if you ask those people, I have black flagged them before on numerous occasions, so I don't like being biased. Now, inside of me, I'm sitting there thinking, I would like to see my buddy win, but I have to call it down the line. And if they cause a caution, I'm going to call the caution where how I see it, which
Yep.
is right down the line, because I believe in fairness and equality and equity for everybody.
Put
And,
that on a t-shirt.
and at the end of that T-shirt, it'll be me handing out black flags to people who deserve them.
So we recapped a busy weekend of racing. What's upcoming next? I know there's a lot of stuff coming up around North Dakota, but what about this upcoming weekend?
I don't know how to do this without John giving me a lead in.
Oh, sure. I'll edit in one more Dakota Dirt segment or ad read for you here. Go ahead.
Did you know, race fans, there is a one-stop shop for everything North Dakota racing news, results, schedules, forecasts, and much more? You can check it out at dakotadirt.org. They are also on social media platforms, so check them out. Again, if you want anything, including maybe an article or two, you can check out dakotadirt.org.
Thank you, Mason. That's how I know how to do this. It's going to be another good week of racing here, Mason. Dakota Speedway looks to get back into action as they've moved a military appreciation night back uh, 1 week since the rainout. Should be a good night of racing. And then River Cities will be racing as well, along with Fargo. It's going to be the world of actually, Fargo might not be racing on
Fargo's racing Saturday.
Saturday. That's right, because the sprint cars go to Fargo. It's kind of a neat swing. But World of Outlaw sprint cars, 410, the best in the nation. Unless you are a high limit fan, then you may say otherwise. But yeah, we'll see. But they have the NLRA late models with them as well. Then on Saturday, should be a busy day. Jamestown Speedway is in action. Big rig night. So they'll have big vehiculars in the area. Then Estevan Motor Speedway is racing. Got all their weekly classes. And Devil's Lake is back in action as it's sprint car night. It will be I think this is the only night of the year that they allow the Renegade Sprints to put on the wings for a night. And it is going to be the winged and wingless 360 Renegade Sprints with Soda Midwest Mods, with Soda Streets, and Pure Stocks. The Red River Valley will be hopping as it is the World of Outlaw Sprint Cars, and I believe it is the Danny Schatz Memorial Night. So it's going to be a big night for the 305 Sprint Cars. If you're a fan of sprints, this is about as good as it gets for us. Not too many classes, and simply a really fun night to be had by all. Me and Mason have enjoyed a World of Outlaw show there. And we've also almost died at the World of Outlaw show as the cars were flipping towards us, and we called it and laughed as it happened.
Yeah.
When we sat down, I looked at Mason. I said, I did the little chuckle, Ralphie chuckle from The Simpsons. I said, "We're in danger." And
5 minutes
Mason's
later.
Mason's, why? I'm like, they're gonna flip. This is it. And 5 minutes later, they were flipping right towards us.
Yep.
Anyways, moving on to Sunday, Nodak Speedway's back in action with the Magic City Dirt Series. And the Tri-County Speedway looks to kick off their season opener. Should be a fun night there. They always have a good time at the old Tri-County. And the following week is where things get busy. It is the Tougher Than Dirt Tour and the legendary Legends Tour as well. Yeah. Pretty much
and I think the
Tuesday through
Mama
Sunday.
and I think the Mama Bear Challenge is also starting the next weekend too.
Yeah, we'll discuss that in next week's episode. Actually, we might not get that out in time, so we better discuss this now. All right, so the McLean County Speedway kicks it off for the Tougher Than Dirt Tour. Probably one of my dark horse favorite races of the year because it's panic, chaos, and disorder. It is wild, and you see things you almost never get to see, whether it be a car passing about 2 rows of cars with the wheels off the ground, coming out of corner 4 and jumping tires and everything, and then having the lead by the time they get to the flag stand. It is wild. Or you can see one of the local inhabitants who are inebriated and pulling up to the backstretch and parking and sitting on their tailgate in the middle of a feature. Like I said, it's a wild time. And you will not see hobby stock drivers drive harder anywhere else than at this track.
That's a good point. The hobby
It is
stocks
like
seem to, I don't know what it is about racing an underboard, especially on Tougher Than Dirt Tour, and they go nuts.
it is like watching old Roman gladiators just go at it.
Yeah. First night of the tour, and then it's like, let's just go all out.
The first night everyone goes all out, and then like I think the next morning everyone's like looking at their cars and like, you know what, maybe we need to be smarter here the next couple nights.
Yeah.
And then at the end of the tour, everyone's exhausted. They're like, let's not hit each other. Anyways, it's a good time. If you don't go, you're missing out. Wednesday, the Tougher Than Dirt Tour will head on over to the Southwest Speedway. Looks to be the same. Oh, sorry, guys, it's past midnight. But same divisions for the most part. Sport mods, hobby stocks, NX Legends, as the Legendary Tour will be following them out there as well, and slingshots. So we'll be interested to see how many of the slingers go on west for a midweek show. So that'll be interesting to see. Thursday, it starts to get a little bit busy here, Mason. Tougher Than Dirt travels on up to Williston. They will be running a full show of cars in all their divisions that night. And then the Cheyenne Speedway will be racing as well. They got a full show as well that night. And that's should be a good night for them out there as well. Anyways, working on over to Friday. Very busy night in the state of North Dakota for racing. River Cities will be racing. They have pretty much a normal night of racing for them. NLRA and NOSA Sprints and Wissota NLRA late models. I don't know why I put both of them together, but whatever. That'd be kind of cool. Along with the Wissota Street Stocks and Midwest Mods, the MWM SmackDown division. Estevan will be racing the Tougher Than Dirt Tour. They have a full night of racing as well with all the regular divisions as well as the tour divisions. Then the Dakota Speedway will be racing the Mary Vedder Hobby Stock Challenge series and the Legendary Tour. So it should be a good night for hobby stocks and legends. And then closing out will be the Red River Valley Speedway with their IMCA Bison Battle. And that will be a good show. It always pulls some interesting names for the modified division. Then Saturday's looking like another busy day as well. Devil's Lake is racing. Just a nice Saturday night racing event for them. Jamestown has the 6th annual Don Gumpke Racers Memorial with the Legendary Tour and the Mary Vedder Hobby Stock Challenge. 3 divisions, and you all know how I feel about invitational races and how less clutter is better. Thunder Mountain Speedway will be hosting the Tougher Than Dirt Tour, and they will have a full night of racing with all the regular divisions, along with the tour divisions as well. And then the Tougher Than Dirt Tour says no more after that. as they close the weekend out up in the Nodak Speedway. Why not, Mason? Because we're in Minot. That's where it will all end. You didn't like that?
No,
Why?
hate that slogan so much.
Well, why not? Why not, Mason?
Move
Why did you?
on, move on.
Anyways, they have semi-pro legends joining them for that night, along with slingshot, sport mods, and hobby stocks. Should be a fun night. It's always a really nice evening for that tour as it rounds off a very hard and grueling week of racing. And also starting that night is going to be the Tri-County Speedway as they are racing Midwest mods, Soda Streets, NX Legends, and hobby stocks.
So get a 2-week preview of what's to come, especially in North Dakota. It's going to be hectic.
Yeah, panic, chaos, and disorder. We're going to maybe see cars go flying. We're going to see tempers soar. And you know what? I'm looking forward to it.
Cars flying. That reminds me of a line I heard from Ron Krogh yesterday in Lisbon.
Oh,
He had one of the best lines. I think he said it before. He's like, because one of the cars rolled over in the heat race in the short tracker. He's like, well, and that car launched off the or flew off the turn without a pilot's license.
oh, Ron.
I'm
Maybe
like, that is such a great line.
it is.
Oh gosh. Well, I'll quickly go through just this weekend coming up outside the state of North Dakota. Kicking off on Thursday, we got Grand Rapids going for their second race of the season. KRA Speedway is going to open up their season with the Challenge Series. First of a 4-night swing for the Challenge Series this weekend. So that's going to be a busy weekend for late model drivers down in that area. And the Norman County Raceway is kicking off their season with the NRA late models. So a lot of big late model races on Thursday night. Friday, we got Brown County Speedway back in action. We also have Fiesta City Speedway. They have the Challenge Series as well. Princeton Speedway, Red Cedar Speedway also running on Friday the 30th. Saturday the 31st, Cedar Lake racing as usual. Greenbush Race Park also racing. Madison Speedway has a Challenge Series in their neck of the woods. Miller Central is in action along with North Central and Brainerd. Ogilvie Raceway will have their kids' night. Viking Speedway and Rice Lake also racing. That's a lot of races on Saturday. Holy
It
smokes.
is.
And then Sunday the 1st, we have Bemidji Speedway, Buffalo River Speedway back in action. Casino Speedway ends the 4-night swing for the Challenge Series. Granite City Motor Park and the Redwood Speedway. So there's a lot of races taking place pretty much after this weekend. I believe most of the tracks will have kicked off their season, minus maybe McLean County for the Tougher Than Dirt Tour the following Tuesday. So you have ample opportunity if you are a race fan, driver, crew member, whoever it is, to get to a racetrack this weekend. There are all sorts of great options. And the weather looks to be pretty decent for the weekend. Maybe a little warmer than what we've had over the last week or so, but after the 90-degree stint we had like a week or two ago, this will feel nice. So there we go. We will then display the white flag in this mixed up show.
Oh. So we were trying to look up the last winner or at Nodak. Guess what it was, Mason?
91?
You were not born when this race happened.
Well, I wasn't born in 91, so there's that.
Well, that is fair. 1989, July 26th. Guess who won?
Was it Mitch Johnson or was it like Rick Auckland?
Mitch Johnson.
Wow.
Yeah.
Cool. I wonder if he'll make a return appearance in the Nodak Speedway.
Rick or Mitch?
Mitch.
I was going to say, I don't think Rick races much anymore.
I would say not Rick. Yeah, definitely not Rick, but Mitch would be more of a possibility.
Let's take a look. Auckland.
Because isn't he in like an Ohio or something now?
I thought he was because there's a Rick Auckland in Ohio.
Is that kind of like there's like two Kyle Andersons and one of them is in like Arizona or something like that, or is a gal or
Let's take
stop
a look.
back at
Rick Auckland at Zanesville, Ohio.
okay, yep.
Features. View full schedule. I want to see your schedule. Atomic. Modifieds. Yeah. Anyways, wait for the white flag.
White flag time. Give a shout out to the B1 Brody Carlsrud and congratulate him on his stock car feature win last week at the Red River Valley Speedway. Not his first in the class, but his first at his home track, Red River Valley, and that's 8 years in the making because he did not get a feature win in the Legend while he was racing at Red River Valley, but first win in the stock car at that track. So big congrats to you, Brody. You have some podcast material now, my friends, so be sure to go over, like his podcast page, The Real Deal with B1, and go follow the racing page as well, Brody Carlsrud, B1 Racing. Thank you so much, Brody, for supporting us on the podcast.
So white flag segment to do wins of the week in preparation for a great win by Brody Carlsrud over at the Red River Valley Speedway this past weekend. So thank you, the Redeal, for presenting us with one of your sponsorships. And but no, overall I do have just a couple. So I have to give a great win out there to. So first of all, I'm going to give it to Brody because Brody was going to be one of mine on my list. That was a huge win over at the Red River Valley Speedway. It's always different when you get the first win at home. I feel like the first one at home always means something special because you either grew up going to the races at that track, you either grew up, with your parents going there, your grandparents going there, or your dad raced there, or your mom raced there. And for you to be able to get that first win off your back after several seasons too, in a division over in a certain track, it makes a huge difference at your home track. So congratulations, Brody. Great win out there at the Red River Valley Speedway. And there's a lot of hot shoes in the stock car division. So that's a great win in a brand new car, much less too.
Yep.
So that's pretty darn special with that stuff. So the second win of the week that I'm going to give out there is I have to give it to somebody that I think is going to be a competitor and a hard charger this year for national points. And that's Cole Gresseth. I believe Cole picked up his first career win over in Fergus Falls on Friday, picked up his first career win over in Jamestown at the Jamestown Speedway on Saturday, graduated Sunday, so he did not race anywhere on Sunday from high school, and then was second on Monday over at the Sheyenne Speedway. And Mason, like we had discussions, he was one of the top competitors over there at the Red River Valley Speedway, and not the Red River, the River City Speedway up in Grand Forks on Thursday before he broke.
Yep.
So,
yep. Running second.
Yep, before he broke. So he's had a pretty strong start to the season, and he's making probably a little bit of a sleeper for maybe potential national points champion here for 2025 in the street stocks. So congratulations, Cole, on a great weekend over there as well. We had a lot of first time winners this weekend, a ton of first time winners this weekend. But honestly, my other win of the week that I have to give out there has to go over to one of the drivers that picked up a feature win on Monday in Minot, and that was Stephen Pfeiffer. So a pretty emotional win on Monday for Veterans Day, for kind of in memory of veterans and in memory of military personnel that we lost on Memorial Day. Steve was pretty emotional in Victory Lane up in Minot on Monday night, and it was good to see him back in Victory Lane up at the Nodak Speedway. So,
yep. Yeah, because there's a lot of good competition in the modifieds as of late, and not easy to win up in Minot and at the Nodak Speedway especially. And so, big win for Stephen Pfeiffer.
Yeah, so it was good to see Stephen back in Victory Lane. I keep wanting to say Sunday because we're so used to Minot being on Sundays, which they were racing Sunday, but also on Monday. So that was on Memorial Day on Monday.
Okay, nice. Well, I'll do two wins because I can't think of a third one right now. I'll think of a third one when Jessup's on here, but I gotta give my first one. My first two wins are gonna go to street stock drivers. So the first one I'm gonna give to is Ashley Wampler because if you would have asked anyone on Saturday after the wreck hit, she
wouldn't have been back. Yep.
Yeah, I'm like, there's no way she'd be racing, let alone like health wise or car wise. But she was back there on Sunday, and her heat race was a fun one with Justin Vogel. Like they were exchanging the lead and kind of swapping sliders and crossovers. very fun heat race to watch on
Mhm.
Sunday. She ended up third in that heat race, but she looked really good, especially after having that big hit on Saturday. So I'm going to give my first win of the week to her.
And Mason, the Wolverine in a brand new car for 2025 that they just finished up basically at the racetrack at
Pretty
Viking
much.
on Sunday.
Yeah. Because I was doing the live pit walk and someone asked, like, is Justin Vogel racing this year? I'm like, yeah, he's checked in, but if I know Justin, he's going to show up at the very last minute. I didn't realize he literally showed up once, like, slightly after the races started.
Yeah, because the races were already going. Like that video that was taken, they were the one that was posted to the Street Stock Tour page today,
Mhm.
on this Tuesday. That was funny to watch because I was like, sure enough, you could see the dust in the background from cars on the racetrack, and you hear it too. And I was like, yep, he showed up after the races had started, and literally almost before his heat hit the track.
Yeah, because of course he's in the first heat race.
Oh, of course, that always happens.
Yeah, I was like, all right, well, he'll show up. I was in the infield, so I'm like, hey, if he shows up, he shows up, I guess. But he'll be in some way, shape, or form.
Doesn't that paint scheme remind you of his 2020 paint scheme?
That's the first thing I thought of. I'm like, I think
Yup,
it's very similar,
that's the first thing I thought of too when I saw it.
which is one of my favorites of his. I think that was a cool
Yes, the
scheme.
patriotic scheme that he had, that was one of mine too.
Yep. The second one I'm going to give in this round is going to go to Josh Long in the 71.
Oh
Now, he's
yes.
been in the street stocks for 6 years, and I didn't even know this, but that was his first win on Monday at the Madison Speedway.
Yep.
I would have I would have bet the farm that he would have gotten a feature win before this, but it goes to show you like how hard it is to win a feature race, not only in the street stocks, but just in general. It's hard.
Anywhere.
Yeah,
Hmm.
anyway, it's hard to win a feature race, and sometimes it may take you 6 years in the case of Josh Long, or trying to win at your home track like Brody, 8 years to do that. I mean, super hard to win feature races, especially in your backyards. And so, big congrats out to Josh Long on getting that win at the Madison Speedway on Monday. So that'll wrap up our wins of this week segment. For now, we'll see what wins Jessup has cooked up, and we'll kind of wrap up the episode. Jessup and I will go through all the big events coming up in the next week or two because there's going to be a lot, especially around North Dakota.
There's going to be a lot of big specials upcoming because there's a lot of racing action coming up, especially. So this weekend is a huge weekend for several tracks just to go through and try to get back on their feet after they had a couple of rainouts. But then next week starts a lot of tours throughout the
Mhm.
state, and it's going to be multi nights for several divisions. So that'll be fun to watch.
Yeah, which means I'm sure, John, you're going to be doing like 3 to 4, almost 3, 4 nights a weekend at this rate.
Yeah, I think so because I think our plans. So this weekend, I plan on. So I have to announce in Mandan on Friday, right? And weather, knock on wood, right now, weather looks really good for the weekend. So I think I'm going to be Mandan Friday, announcing in Jamestown on Saturday, and we might hit up Nodak on Sunday. We haven't quite decided yet if we're going to go up to Nodak on Sunday, but I wouldn't bet against us. I would say we'll probably be there. And then on Tuesday of the following week is when the Tougher Than Dirt Tour starts at McLean County Speedway. And so you're gonna have your IMC hobby stocks, right? They're gonna be part of the tour. Your IMC sport mods are gonna be part of the tour. Your slingshots are going to be part of the tour for several stops this season. And then you have the legendary tour starting for the legends. So that's all going to be at McLean on Tuesday. And I believe they're also running stock cars. I think they also have stock cars on the docket that night.
I think so.
So with that being said, that's going to be a full night of racing action and a lot of fun. We plan on taking that night in for sure. I don't know if we'll do Dickinson the next night, but we'll for sure do McLean County that first night as long as the weather's good. And then yeah, because and then Mason, then they hit, then some of the series they go up to Williston then on that, Thursday night for the Tougher Than Dirt. The Legends go down to Cheyenne Speedway in Lisbon on that Thursday. And then Friday, the Legends hit Mandan. The Tougher Than Dirt Tour is actually going to be over at the Estevan Motor Speedway on that Friday. Now, this is a week from now. So we're talking about this for like June 6th timeframe on that Friday. And then, for me, I'm going to be hitting the Gumpke Memorial pretty hard for Jamestown because Jamestown starts the Gumpke Memorial on the 7th of June. That also has the Vetter Challenge Series over there for the hobby stock and bomber drivers on the 7th of June, as well as the Legendary Tour on the 7th of June. That's all in Jamestown in one night. So that's going to be a busy, busy night over there on June 7th.
Just remember, like, the last few years, that was usually one of the nights of the Street Stock Tour a couple years back.
It was. Now, wouldn't that be fitting? No, I actually
Oh, gosh.
enjoyed the doubleheader in August for the Street Stock Tour. I I can't think of a better way to have a doubleheader in August with street stocks over in Jamestown and then a visit with the late models. So
Yes,
that weekend last year was a whole lot of fun. It was a lot of racing action, and those grandstands on Saturday night were packed.
they were.
And I think they're going to be packed again this year too.
Yeah, so a lot of racing coming up. Jessup and I will break that down here shortly. In the meantime, John, hope you have a safe and fun time at DC, and we'll see you hopefully at the track this upcoming weekend at some point.
Yes, it should be fun.
All right, Jessup, who do you have for wins of the week?
People.
People. They don't have to be winners.
Yes, they do.
Then go with winners.
I don't know. I don't pay attention to who wins, Mason.
Oh yes, you're unbiased. That's
I'm
right.
unbiased. I try to cheer for everybody and make sure they all follow the rules.
Fair and balanced like Fox News.
Yes. I don't know. I don't watch the news anymore.
I don't watch the news either.
I've given up hope.
I don't have cable. Do you know what the last time this TV behind me has been turned on? I don't even remember when I turned this TV on. That's how long it's been. Actually, it was probably for one of the NASCAR races back in early April because I streamed it from my computer to the TV.
Well, to make you feel better, have we said Kyle Dykoff?
We have not.
Well, I'll take Kyle Dykoff for sweeping the opener for the, what is it? Dirt Race Central, DRC, Street Stock Tour, even though I want to call it Series. Anyways, he swept, and I believe that was his first ever win up at Viking Speedway in that division, and then he swept the weekend. So that's pretty neat. Just like the guy on the Nature Walk who says, "How neat is that?" That's pretty neat.
That is a throwback into the YouTube video archive.
It's still up, and there's multiple episodes. But anyway,
I'm sure there is.
Tell us more about those wins, Mason.
Well, John and I shared wins. I shared two of them. I got to come up with one more, though. I was hoping you would eliminate a couple of them before.
All right, well, then I will go with Travis Hagen as my second win. Back-to-back night wins over at Jamestown, and I believe up at Nodak he took a win. Did he not?
He won on Sunday night, yes.
Yep. Well, you can't win them all. You got to let some people win so they come back and play.
That is also a very good point.
And then, it's going to be tough. I get wins this week.
Yeah, because there's a lot of racing, but not like it's so much to try to keep track of and observe.
Yeah. I'm going to say Sabraski. Pretty much cleaning house on the night that matters the most over at Ogilvy, the night with all the money.
Yeah, that's a good one to finish it out. Because, yeah, I was going to give a win to Clayton Wagman for winning the first two nights.
Well, here's the thing. He should have an advantage over everyone there.
Well, this is true. And, like, he can absolutely run the high side of that track like nobody else.
Yep. Well, there's only one other person who can run it just as good. Probably would be I honestly can't say that. I haven't watched too much Ogilvy racing, but another dominant driver over there would be the 11B of Jody Belfi.
Jody, yep. Jody would be another good one. He didn't have the best weekend, though.
No. That happens. He'll be back.
Yeah. Well, I mean, Clayton almost got the Sunday night win, too. He made it 3-wide pass on Shane, then Shane said, no, we're not doing that again.
Yeah.
So that'd be my third win, even though he didn't completely sweep the weekend in the mods. Clayton Wagman definitely with those two wins.
Oh, that's a good win. Who else did you pick this week?
I did Josh Long in the street stocks because he got his first street stock win in Madison on Monday after 6 years in the class. I did not know it was his first win. And then I gave a win to Ashley Wampler because she looked like she was going to the hospital after a wreck on Saturday. And and then she ended up not having to go to the hospital. She just had whiplash and she came back on Sunday and raced. And the car wasn't too badly damaged to race. So
I was going to say that's kind of a bit of a weird one there, Mason, but congratulations, Ashley, on not being severely wounded.
it was a big hit. That was a big hit she took. Yeah. Lap
We're
one of the
glad she's all
feature
right.
and it's lap one of the feature and it's not good when like six of the cars hit the same like bump and all push up the track at the same time and three of them spin out. And I'm like, uh-oh.
That could lead to problems, yes.
It led to big problems. So yeah, we got yeah, that was an interesting start to that race. So yeah, those are our wins of the week. And Jessup, what do you have on the docket for this week as far as racing goes, or any big plans besides the zoo?
Probably Dakota Speedway for myself on Friday. Um, I would like to go watch sprint cars on Saturday, but I highly doubt I'm going to be able to do that. So it's impossible maybe for Jamestown Saturday, but we have family coming in, and I don't get to see that family too much. So um, probably should spend time with them.
That probably would be a good idea too. Hey, maybe you could bring them to the racetrack as well.
No, grandma will be watching the little wee baby Pelkey.
What? Well, oh yeah. Riley didn't do the greatest when she was at the racetrack, from what I heard. But I mean, you
She
can still
likes.
ease her in.
There's a lot going on, and she likes that. The problem is she's not. She's still too young to like the noise, and she doesn't like noise, and she doesn't like the headset, the earmuffs we put on her, because it's either too tight or then if they're too loose, then she can just rip them off, and then she'll just yell and scream at you because it's too loud. And then when you
I
go to put them on, she'll fight you to put them back on.
I could see her doing that. I think are we on the 1 year kind of anniversary of the big race at Jamestown
That
too?
was last weekend.
Last weekend.
Yep.
Yeah, because I was trying to figure out, I'm like, why the heck? Because I missed the tour race in Alexandria that Saturday, and I'm like, why the heck was I in Jamestown? Because I know the Rebel Tour was there, but I'm like, there was another reason why I was there, and I'm like, oh yes, it was the gender reveal race.
Yep. Yeah, that was a cool race.
That was fun. That was a
That
good
was
time.
good people, good. Everything worked out just fine. And yeah, then it was funny how many people after did some sort of gender reveal at the racetrack.
You started a trend. Look what you did. Just like paint schemes.
Jeez. We're not going to talk about that. I'm going to upset too many people.
Well, we better wrap up the show before we upset anymore, folks. Thank you, as always, for you listeners and watchers of the Track Packers podcast. As always, be sure to like, share, comment, or let us know if you're watching the show. We'd love to give you a shout out. Thank you to our sponsors, Hitch Harness, The Real Deal with B1 Brody Carlsrud, and Isaac Hot Sauce Sondrol. A lot of racing taking place coming up on the beginning of June, and we hope to see you out there packing the track.